Cancelled here.
Anyway, I hope that by the time I leave here, I will be able to apprise everyone of the situation. I also want the United Nations they have a responsibility. After all, it is the United Nations Security Council resolution that gave the Kashmiris the right of self-determination. And what is happening to them right now, responsibility lies on the United Nations too. And also, I think finally of the world leaders, the big countries, the powerful countries, I would urge them to look beyond big markets. There's certain, if this thing goes wrong, the effects will go way beyond the borders of the subcontinent. And this obsession with big markets and trade and all that, this is serious. And I again repeat, we do not know what will happen after the curfew is lifted. And my fear is that with 900,000 troops there will be a massacre.
Yes, Mr. Prime Minister.
Wait,
Mr. Prime Minister.
Michelle from Reuters, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. On behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, thanks so much for the news conference. There was a report earlier, as you said, you met with President Trump yesterday. There was a report earlier today that President Trump has asked you to mediate between the United States and Iran. Is that true? Can you elaborate? Has President Trump asked you to take a message to President Rouhani?
Before President Trump, I stopped over in Saudi Arabia because of the drone attacks on their oil facility. And I spoke to Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and he also asked me to talk to the Iranian president. He knew I was meeting him. And so also President Trump asked me that if we could de-escalate the situation and maybe come up with another deal. So I did convey this, and yes, we are trying our best. It's an ongoing thing, so I can't reveal more than that.
So, sorry, just a quick follow-up. So, yes, you are now mediating between the United States and Iran. And when did you speak with President Rouhani?
I immediately spoke to President Rouhani yesterday after the meeting with President Trump. But I can't say anything right now more than this, except that we are trying and mediating.
So how do you think the situation can be de-escalated?
I'm hoping that, that there is no conflict. You see, I do not believe that conflicts actually resolve anything. We have the situation in Afghanistan, and here's me on record saying that I was anti this, the whole war in Afghanistan and Pakistan becoming part of this war. And I was told both times that, look, the war in Afghanistan will be over in a few weeks, and Pakistan will only be involved in it for a few weeks. So, 19 years down the line, we have a situation. Again, by the way, we are still hoping. I've spoken to President Trump. We are trying now to get the talks restarted between Taliban and the Americans. And hopefully, if the deal is signed, which was almost about to be signed, then I would try and meet the Taliban to convince them to talk to the Afghan government then. Because until now, that's where the hitch was. Taliban were talking to the Americans, but not to the Afghan government. So Pakistan is affected by this, by all the turmoil in Afghanistan. We desperately want there to be peace, also for the sake of people of Afghanistan. Also, this would be a tragedy for not just Pakistan, but for all developing countries with their budgets being affected if this war takes place and the oil prices shoot up. It's going to cause much more poverty, so we'll try our best in both cases.
Thank you. James, Al Jazeera, and after this, if I can't identify somebody, please identify yourself before you ask a question. James, go ahead.
James Bays from Al Jazeera. On Kashmir, I've heard absolutely everything you've said, but I still want to ask this question. You're here in New York. Prime Minister Modi is here in New York. You both had meetings with President Trump. Is there a possibility of face-to-face diplomacy? Is there a chance for diplomacy on Kashmir?
Look, before 5th August, Pakistan tried everything. I spoke to President Modi too, saying we have similar problems. Our problem is poverty, above anything. The responsibility of the head of state above anything is to get people out of poverty. And conflict is one that creates poverty. And sadly, as I said, there was no response. Now, after the 5th of August, I'm afraid what is the point of talking now? What they had done to Kashmir, unless and until they lift the curfew and then restore that Article 370, there's no chance of talking. So that's why we've asked President Trump and other world leaders to intervene.
The lady in pink right here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Prime Minister, you're a man of enormous sophistication, and you're aware, I know, that there are very often forces behind the kinds of conflicts you're facing now. You have mentioned the Security Council. Now, one of my concerns, if this issue becomes before the Security Council, is there has been a tendency to attack Islamic countries, Iraq, Libya, and now Syria. And wouldn't it be risky to get the Security Council, with its multiple interests conflicting, involved in this? What would your expectation or hope be?
Look, I mean, if ever the Security Council has to move, it's now. And I'll say for two reasons. One, the people of Kashmir are suffering simply because the Security Council could not implement its decision to allow them the right of self-determination. The 11 resolutions. So it's their responsibility. 8 million people are locked inside for 50 days. It's inhuman. So what is the Security Council for then? Second, this has a potential of the unthinkable. Two nuclear-armed countries face to face. Surely the Security Council came into being to stop this. I mean, this is as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
So here's me, the reason I started by saying, I would not have come out of Pakistan because, we are just about coming out of a really difficult economic situation and governance issues and fighting a corrupt mafia. I would not have come here. But I'm alarmed because here's me, there's one prime minister that side, there's one this side. A sane mind can't think of a nuclear war. No sane mind can think of it. We grew up and after the Cuban crisis, and all of us sort of knew that the Cold War was there because the other war was unimaginable. But when you have what you have in India right now, and I say this who knows India, this is an ideology, a racist ideology, which believes in the supremacy of a Hindu race. The other races are not supposed to be equal. How do you reason with them? How do you reason with what they've done in Kashmir? I mean, would you expect a civilized society to do what they've done? I'm locked in, 8 million people. So therefore, I'm worried that if this goes on, there can easily be a miscalculation. And that's why the United Nations must act.
Mr. Prime
The lady in the white